Thank you, Yanis. And
yes.
I didn't have my breakfast yet.
You didn't have your breakfast. So, as you see, the app works, the web browser.
Yeah, so good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. A big honor to be a first speaker today, and in these 2 days when we will be talking and thinking about innovations in payment world. Kind of not a usual suspect, a guy from a bank, not IT background, opening this technology-heavy driven topic. So, but I hope you give me a chance. I am heading Transaction Services Department at SEB, and one of my tasks is actually to understand or try to understand what our corporate customers, needs are in cash management and trade finance areas, and then bring this information back to the bank internally, and then try to make sure that this information is somehow put into development pipelines. And I also brought a couple of pictures from SEB. So this is one. Here you see development pipeline, and that is our business development manager who is trying to drink from it. Obviously, a lot of this pressure in the pipeline currently is being built up by what is happening in payment markets. And actually, I don't think that this is just a SEB picture. It might be very well any other bank. So in my 20 minutes, I will try to give a bit broader maybe view from the bank side on payments markets. First, discuss a few minutes on are really banks slow or how slow they are. Then we will run through a few areas of major change from our perspective, instant payments, e-commerce, open banking, AML, and then finish up with a short wrap-up how we see Baltic payments market is developing or will be developing during next few years, and what are these cornerstones this market is being built upon. But then talking about slow or fast, a little bit of fundamental before. So of course, obviously, to say if something is fast or slow, you need to take some benchmark. And looking to rate of change of technology growth, and obviously everything else looks very slow. I'm quite sure that people here in this room is well above yellow line, and banks are probably somewhere on the green one. But the fact is that difference between technology and all the rest is increasing as we speak, which is basically a very good message for any fintech. So there is more and more scope to actually to act and to bring technology, make something out of it better than we are using today. So there are a lot of new products to be invented if this is continuing. So yeah, good news for any fintech. Now about banks, and this is another picture back from SEB. There is SEB and one fintech. I will not ask you to vote which you think is which. And indeed, actually, if we think about this in these categories, then obviously banks are very much more like turtles, and there are many reasons why it is so. There are a lot of stuff banks are bringing with them under this turtle shell. A lot of good stuff, but also a lot of not so good stuff, like old systems, old legacy systems. They need to maintain it. There is existing income which is being brought together, and then banks are obviously quite cautious, running fast on the corners, not to drop it out somewhere from the pocket. Another good reason why this turtle shell is being strengthened and made more and more bulletproof is AML. But the main probably is still that the main asset of any bank is customer trust. It is not how good are products, how quick are payments, or or how good customer experience it is trust, and trust is basically a combination of all of that and a bit more. So from that perspective, obviously, this shell maybe is helping sometimes a bit more than quick legs to keep this trust. Also, if we look to Baltic picture, and not only Baltic, I think that we can say that still fintechs and banks, they are running different tracks. So if you look to regular bank in Baltic, 70% of income is coming from risk products, lending products. So if you have 70% of income from something, then most probably management attention and competence is, well, at least 70, if not more, % in this area. So definitely, if we compare a bank with a fintech who is active in payments area, well, bank will be much slower for sure. But at the same time, I wouldn't say that, well, banks are always super slow. Maybe they are not running, they maybe are crawling quite fast as the turtles sometimes. And if we look to Baltic market, also it's not so kind of a stagnant, I would say, during the last few years. We see Smart ID being there, we see instant payments being there, we see API connections which have been developed over last year. We see mobile apps, digital wallets coming out, which are offered also by banks. So, yeah, not running, maybe crawling fast sometimes, but that is a reality. So, moving now to the main change areas, which we see. First, let's take instant payments. And now, for a few years, we have learned that basically you can make a bank payment in less than 10 seconds. Before that was not imaginable, now it is a reality. And you can make this payment without extra charge, which is actually also something which hasn't happened in all geographies. So there are still countries which have introduced instant payments, but where you need to pay for that. So from that perspective, I think also instant payment introduction in Baltics has been a success. We at SEB now made instant payments as part of our regular SEPA infrastructure. So if payment can go instant rails, then it will be executed as instant payment. There are still some things we need to fix in some products and some channels, but we are on the way to fix it. Then talking about instant payments, we also need to say that well, the time when we talked how to introduce it has actually passed, and now it is more a discussion what to do with instant payments. And from that perspective, I think it is well, a good way how to follow it is to follow what is on the agenda of EU. So what is on EU table, and here the main points are outlined. So mobile payments on instant, so how to make it more convenient that you can actually pay using mobile phone number rather than put in long IBANs. Focus on interoperability, and this is also very important when we are thinking about business development ideas here in the Baltics. And Baltic interoperability is definitely one of the key things which we need actually to have before we start to work on something. And on European level, obviously, all these instant payment schemas, which are, well, globally there are around 45, if I'm not mistaken, and some 10 or 13 joining soon. But definitely, when you look to Europe levels, then it is needed that these schemas talk to each other. On interoperability, also important maybe to mention is another big global project which is connected with ISO 222 standard. So this is basically a big project where market participants are starting already to work on, or actually working already for some time, and it is coming out of the that global financial community agreed to use one messaging standard starting from November 2021, which will actually also increase possibility to give data in a structured way from one payment provider to another, and then also to build additional products on top of that for end customers in a convenient way. Then two other important parts which are of the plan going forward is instant at POS. This is discussed on European level, also in Baltic level, yeah, currently maybe still some time needs to pass when we will have a good solutions which are probably the most of interest for retail merchants. And request to pay is another topic which is also discussed on several levels, and that is also going to change the way how we are doing payments today, so that might disrupt some of the products which are currently used by the market. Moving to the next area, which is e-commerce. And for banks, e-commerce is interesting from very many angles. So obviously, we are interested in new technologies in payments which are behind. We are interested in new customer experience at checkout and the way how they are buying things. But for the bank as a major lender, obviously also how this is influencing retail industry as such is very important, and starting from lending to retail store and ending with how much real estate will cost in, for example, 2040 if all transactions will be e-commerce by that time. So what will happen with these shops on the street? Then here on the graph you see a percentage of population which have been buying something during 2018 online. And the numbers you can see on the younger generations are already very close to 100. That is maybe UK, which is leading, but in the Baltics we see the numbers are definitely higher than for older age groups, but still there is a lot of growth possibility, especially in Latvia and Lithuania. And also, well, when new generation comes in year by year, this is adding just to this trend. And also we see, if you look to our e-commerce transactions, it is around 20% growth year on year, and it is going to stay there and be there for a few more years for sure. And when it comes to payment methods behind these e-commerce transactions, then it is very diverse, not just regionally diverse, but also country by country, and takes the same EU, or not even, well, not EU anymore, it's European area. For example, UK, they are having like 60% of transactions which are behind e-commerce on cards, card rails, and just around, well, up to 10 maybe percent are account-to-account payments behind. Completely different picture is in Netherlands or in Germany, where there is 60% account-to-account and less than 10 card payments. And also, if we look to Baltic markets, then account-to-account payments have been dominating, and especially for those payments which are inside the country. So, well, existing bank link products, you can say, probably as one reason why people, when they are buying something in Baltic, so online, they have been basically using more account-to-account payments. And now with PSD2 and new products coming up, it will be just more and more, at least that is what we expect, that it will be even more account-to-account payment rather than card payment behind, if the transaction happens inside the country. If these previous areas were very much influenced by PSD2 and payments in general, obviously are now in a forefront because of PSD2, then speaking about open banking a bit broader perspective, we see that other products are maybe not, well, if we can say that payments are coming very soon, and we see already first changes in the market, then other products are still, well, it remains to be seen what kind of effects it will be. In Baltics, globally, obviously we see many players which are trying to provide new platforms, bringing many financial providers in specific product and making it easier for customers to choose and to migrate from one payment provider to another. And obviously that is something what banks are thinking what to do with it and how to approach it. There is probably no better way than in the future to concentrate really on those things where you are strong as a bank. I mean, when we talk about from bank's perspective, and then let those other areas where there are stronger players be covered with either with partnerships or any other way, but basically not investing that much yourself. From one hand, again, being a bit provocative, maybe I can say that for banks, actually, it's hardly new thing, because if you think about Uber or Booking.com, then what is a bank? Bank is a platform which is bringing together those who have money and giving the money to those who want to borrow, actually. So this Uber has been invented many centuries ago. So banks are someone also running without their own assets, basically. They are taking assets from one group of people and giving it to other. So now, obviously, with open banking, this is bank on the bank. So it is adding definitely transparency, adding different tools. But from one hand, banks have been these trusted brokers in financial markets so far. So this is probably one area where some of the banks see their future also going ahead. AML, and I have seen that this topic will be covered by few speakers later on, and I think it is for a good reason, because when we talk about payment market, and especially in Baltics, you should talk about AML as well. There is no way you can have the best customer experience, you can have fastest product, smoothest checkout and everything, but if you fail in AML area, well, basically, you risk of being, basically losing control about what can happen with you. And that we have seen several times, also in Baltic market. And now, just looking to what is happening globally, also in banking community, if we approach AML risks, then you can split them in three parts, maybe. And there is a compliance risk, which is definitely very much addressed by regulators, and where some banks are very good. Reputation risk, which is just bad thing if you are somehow related to AML issues, and the third one is risk of being used, which is basically now, I would say, even running the agenda when we talk about correspondent banking relationship, for example, or any other aspects of AML, and basically you can be compliant 100%, but if you will be used by bad money, that is your problem as big as being not compliant. So from that perspective, of course, this is very important also for new players which are coming into the market, for new payment providers. And since they are using the same rails which are built by central banks and banks, it is important for them to manage this issue as well as they are managing their client interactions and client experience. Summing up, this is a picture of how we see this market in Baltics being built for the next few years. Some of these things which are here are already there and up and running. Some of them are in development pipelines. And if we imagine that there are some rails and then some trains which are running on these rails, then the rails part consists of basically two blocks. One is this interoperability, and that I mentioned already, is that also when we approach different new projects in the bank, of course, we are three very proud nations, but still, if you have a local solution which is working just in one country, it will, in a longer period, it is not going to be competitive because especially of the nature of payment market, it is global, it is not local anymore. So Baltic interoperability is very important thing, which needs to be then implemented in all these building blocks which are on the red box. And what we see as the main building blocks of payment market in Baltics, then Smart ID is actually one, which is very easy, convenient identification in e-environment. And now there are around 800,000 users already, and I understand that we will also hear a bit more from Sanita later today. Another very important part is instant payments. We have touched that one. Proxy registry, that's something which is being built currently by central banks, Latvia and Lithuania, matching your IBAN number with phone number. So, and potentially in the future it might be other alias, and making it very easy for anyone to make a payment just using mobile phone or, I don't know, email. Another one is request to pay. I also touched it briefly. This is not yet there. Some discussions are going on, but we still need time for that to see how it will look. And API connections, another building block of this new Rails. Yeah, banks have been quite actively building them. We have launched our APIs during last year. Start of this year, we see actually that this activity is picking up nicely. So third parties are starting to use our APIs. And if we look to stability of API, which we are having, it's actually now higher than our own internet bank. So from that perspective, I think that, well, it is quite stable base to build further on. And then if we have these Rails here ready, then I would say that we will be able to run quite fast trains on these Rails, and trains will be operated by banks, by fintechs, or by banks and fintechs together. And with trains here, I mean all the convenient, easy solutions where private persons can make a payment to private person or to company or company to company. It can be in-store merchant payments, so this instant payment at POS or yeah, digital wallet or whatever, you name it, and you know better these things. So basically, if we have this in place in few years, well, I think that we have quite reasonable alternative to payment cards infrastructure, and also risk that one day, well, and a risk for local banks and local fintechs here, or regional fintechs here, that one day one large US or Chinese well, tech grand will come and take all the market, will be also smaller with this one. Of course, we cannot exclude it, but definitely this is going to help us yeah, to deal with those risks. So on that happy note, I will say thank you for attention, and have a great day.
So I will not let you go just yet, because we have time for questions, and we have quite a few questions, which makes me happy, because it means everything works. You have a question where you want to raise your hand? Yes? Yeah? Then I will give the microphone, because it's recorded.
Hi, Kristaps. So would you be ready to mention already good examples of cooperation where ECB had kind of partnership with any fintech? It could be also a part of payment area?
Yeah, when we talk about cooperations, then obviously that is a new area for us. And looking to open banking, we also understand that there is no other way. We need to go in that direction. There are clear plans and ambition from management level to have these partnerships, and actually there are plans of specific number of partnerships which we need to develop during this year and next year. One partnership probably we can mention, and there is one representative of our partners sitting in the hall, and that is, and we will hear him a bit later, and that is connected with these new PSD2 opened opportunities to basically use APIs and be a connector for your customers, and approach all other banks or other financial institutions and make a payment. So that is one area where we are, where we can name. There are a few other projects which currently are not public. Well, hopefully they will get public soon.
The man nods with the head and says thank you. So questions. Ooh, a lot of people are hitting likes for questions. That means there are super important questions. And the first is, how do you manage liquidity for instant payments?
Yeah, that I need to ask my treasury guy. Yeah, but basically, I think that that amount of money which we need to keep in short-term liquidity, and which is where regulators make sure that we have enough of funds which can be used in any time is definitely helping to deal with instant payments, and I don't think that we actually have felt too much of liquidity problems because of instant payment introduction, because also before money still could go out in one day, and maybe it's not if you look to your mandatory reserves which you need to keep and just to reach all the liquidity coefficients on your balance sheet, still you need to have quite a lot of money available to actually facilitate this.
Well, as a central banker, I can say that banks and well, in general, we have so deposit and model for instant payment. Banks already have accounts within central bank, therefore it's not a problem. They have a lot of liquidity. They just dedicated specific amount of money to the specific account, and kind of delivering guarantee for the payments they make. And we do have liquidity tools offering them very well, very good services to monitor their liquidity and indeed increase the amount of money if it's necessary.
I don't know. I have a feeling you're speaking another language for me. I'm just nodding and smiling, just smiling away. But I can read questions, and there's a hot one. Do you see any AML-related risks with instant payments? And there's another add to it. Considering that transaction must be executed within 10 seconds.
Yeah, that is adding complexity, obviously. That is one concern area which any bank is dealing with, and the main answer to that one, you shouldn't onboard bad clients. That is first thing. If you onboard bad clients, then you have this problem. If you don't onboard bad clients, then you don't have this problem.
Very logical.
I will cover it afterwards during my presentation, so I can give you more insight.
Okay. Next question. I feel like this is a duo presentation, and I'm just passing the mic. What is the future of mobile wallets? Some banks in Western Europe are already sunsetting their wallets due to being too expensive.
Yeah, we obviously are in a different life cycle, so we are just launching our wallets. And yeah, probably it remains to be seen how popular it is. Well, we have launched our wallet on Androids last year, so we see quite good inflow of customers. Let's see, and later on, of course, you can have in a digital wallet you can have your card attached, or you can have your bank account attached, and there are different other alternatives how you can actually facilitate this product.
Smiling and nod. Also a question, I think it was actually mentioned, but is account-to-account e-commerce payments dominates in Latvia as well?
Yeah, I mentioned that one, and when it comes to internal transactions inside the country, where there are nothing bought from China or some other geographies outside, then if we look to local markets, then yeah, account-to-account payments are dominating, and they are currently the main reason are bank links.
Okie dokie. Is crypto money on banks' radar?
Well, it is on radar for sure, mainly on AML person's radar, currently at least. So yeah, I probably cannot comment much more there.
Okay. What is SEB doing in terms of providing e-commerce payment services for merchants? How it will change merchant experience benefits?
One particular area which we also discussed here was these instant payments at POS, which is yeah, definitely something which we are looking forward. It's not very easy to offer something as good as current schema, which is well, have been improved year by year, and there is a good customer experience already. But from merchant perspective, of course, merchants would like to see any option which is cheaper. And if we can get cheaper option using these rails, then we definitely will get there.
Okay. 2 more questions. And what tangible benefits has PSD2 brought to SEB?
That's a good question.
If you want to smile and
That's a
wave,
good
you can
question.
do.
I cannot name any income line in last year's annual account, so I don't think that that is more a monetary question currently, but definitely it has changed the way how we approach the same pipeline. We have definitely higher ambition to find partnerships now, a bit more maybe agile way of doing things. So, well, I think that we still need to see how this is influencing us and also market. And as I mentioned, so there are a lot of changes for any bank, and well, many risks you can see there. Of course, there are also some opportunities.
Okay, so last question. I will choose one, and it's this one because it's shorter. Why do value-added services in payments couldn't be built on top of SEPA credit transfer? Why instant is so important?
Well, now we don't differentiate basically these 2 types anymore. So we have it in one infrastructure. So if that cannot be instant, then it is SEPA. But obviously, in some cases, maybe this instant is not so important. It still is okay to have a payment which is executed once or twice per day. That depends very much on use cases. But obviously, if you have it quicker, there are probably more use cases.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for Kristaps.